Small towns are awkward. I should know, I grew up in one. The fashion sense is simpler, everyday life is slower, and the artificial gloss just isn't there. I couldn't wait to leave my small town of Mahomet, Illinois when I was younger. But looking back now, I see the humor and the charm of growing up in a place like that. So in 2004, when a movie called Napoleon Dynamite came out, I couldn't help but feel a kinship with it. The movie was actually created outside of the studio system. It was only picked up by Hollywood after it got attention at Sundance. So how did this scrappy independent film made by a group of BYU students break through to a mainstream audience? Well, sit back, relax, grab a pocketful of tater tots, and let's take a look at how Napoleon Dynamite became one of the most successful indie films in history.
Before we get into the video, don't forget to nunchuck the decoded like and subscribe buttons. If you don't, it'll ruin everybody's lives.
The origins of Napoleon Dynamite can be traced back to director Jared Hess's black and white short film, Palooka. The film is about a nerdy teen who skips school with two of his friends, picks up a winning lottery ticket, and goes thrift shopping. While they're shopping, they find a wig for his friend Gil's newly shaved head. The film was shot on a shoestring budget of $500 and took 2 days to complete. Now, let's time travel ahead to its premiere at the Slam Dance Film Festival in 2003. It was received warmly and provided the confidence needed for Jared Hess to forge ahead with a feature film version of it. Jared and his wife Jerusha went to work on the new project immediately. They were living in a tiny apartment with only one chair in it, and they would take turns using it while writing the movie. They both agreed on keeping a very important element from Palooka, its star Jon Heder, who played Seth in the short film. The Hesses happily kept him in the feature-length version, where they renamed his character Napoleon Dynamite. In an interview with BYU Magazine, Jared Hess revealed the inspiration for the title character of his film. The inspiration happened back when he was a Mormon missionary. Hess recounted it like this. On my mission in Chicago, an older Italian man said, "Hey church people, I want to talk to you guys. Why do you have the name Elder?" And we're like, "Well, it's a title we carried for 2 years. So what's your name, sir?" And he goes, "My name is Napoleon Dynamite." My mind was blown. Clearly it wasn't his real name, but I remember writing down on a piece of paper, title of first movie, must be Napoleon Dynamite. Hess also revealed that a lot of the characters are based on family members and classmates from his time growing up in Preston, Idaho. The film's plot was explained by the Hesses during their in-depth interview with BYU Magazine. It's not a plot-driven film at all, it's very much a character piece. We wanted to just go along and see where Napoleon would take you, which is a very meandering set of interests and events. But we also knew this is the story of an underdog who makes it. That was a clear focus we had. He doesn't do a lot of changing in the movie, but the people around him change. Once the script was complete, it was time to secure the financing for the film. I was interested to find out that the movie's producer, Jeremy Kuhn, is actually the brother of 1-800-CONTACTS founder, Jonathan Kuhn, both BYU alumni. Jonathan ended up becoming the sole investor of the film and writing a check for the initial $200,000 budget. Jeremy Kuhn said of his brother Jonathan, he was a dream investor, totally hands-off. He literally wrote the check and then saw the movie at Sundance. He also said, if this goes south, we're still brothers, but don't ask me for money again. It gave me that extra oomph. It was his money and I felt responsible for it. It was do or die. Wow, can you imagine if Jeremy blew all that money on lottery tickets? Yikes. Once the budget was secured, it was time to prep for the film's shoot. After it was decided that they would shoot the movie on film, the team applied and were selected for a grant from Panavision. This grant provided them with a 20-year-old camera to use for the movie. Next, the team reached out to various high-profile actors for roles, such as Brad Garrett and Jason Lee for the role of Uncle Rico, but a majority of them declined. The part was then offered to actor John Grise. When Grise's manager urged him not to take the role, John shrugged him off and said he would read it anyway. He recounts it like this. I was laughing out loud. I said, tell them I'm doing the movie and I'll drive myself there. The dialogue had a lot to do with my choice to do the film. Reading gosh and going, who says gosh? And Bo Daggett and things like that. Later, I found out that the team had a strong Mormon contingency and they don't curse. Since Napoleon, every script that I have ever written, if I find myself going towards saying anything in any way dirty, I figure another way to say it. There was a beautiful jargon and cleanliness to Napoleon, but it didn't lose its edge. Grise really sums up one of the things that is so unique about this movie, the lack of swear words. It's actually a rare thing for a movie to leave those out. For the rest of the cast, they ended up casting Tina Majorino for Deb, Efren Ramirez for Pedro, and managed to get character actor Diedrich Bader for the part of Rex.
Bow to your sensei.
Interestingly enough, the casting director of Napoleon Dynamite, Jory Weitz, suggested that Hess cast Jake Gyllenhaal as Napoleon. However, Jared stuck to his guns about keeping John Heder as the lead. And it was a wise choice, no doubt about it. It's one of those roles you can't see anyone else playing. Jared also roped in his fellow BYU classmate Aaron Rule to play Kip, Napoleon's brother. In order to prep for the role, John Heder had to get several perms prior to shooting. However, before the start date, some of his curls were not as tight as they needed to be, so he got an additional perm the night before shooting. That did the trick, but he was unable to wash his hair for almost a month for fear of messing it up. I bet that hair smelled like puberty and sadness. When I looked deeper into the making of Napoleon Dynamite, I was taken aback by the town of Preston, Idaho, and the generous ways they contributed to the production. Although it makes sense. In my small town, there was a sense of community, and people tended to band together when someone was in need. The main cast was put up at the only hotel in town, while other cast and crew members were housed by locals. A family friend of Jared Hess offered up his storage unit full of old furniture, which was then used in Napoleon's living room. Left and right, the people of Preston were pitching in to make the film possible. Uncle Rico's van was provided by a Preston local named Pickles. Oftentimes, though, the van wouldn't start during filming, so they would have to improvise shots as they went along, until the van worked again. That's why you sometimes see Uncle Rico's van in a random field. It didn't feel like working that day. I'm fairly certain that those were the only instances of prima donna behavior on set. Another mishap occurred while filming the scene where the cow gets shot in front of the school bus full of kids. Apparently, the person who was going to let them use their cow fell through at the last minute. So once again, the team had to reach out to the community for help. Because the town of Preston is so small, everyone's phone number has the same prefix. So they dialed random numbers and eventually reached someone who owned a cow. Within 10 minutes, that new cow was on set, ready to perform. How's that for small town hospitality? Okay, so remember how I mentioned that they decided to shoot on film? Well, film is really expensive. It really drives up the cost of the budget when the amount of takes start to pile up. This happened while they were filming the scene where Napoleon gets hit in the face with a stake. After many attempts, actor John Grise stepped up to the plate and stated that since he used to play baseball, he could nail his target. Sure enough, on the very next take, Grise threw a perfect meat curveball, which hit Heder so hard in the face that they didn't even need to add a sound effect in post-production. Well done. You see what I did there? Not impressed? Neither am I. Moving on. That wouldn't be the last time that the pressure would mount due to a nearly depleted film stock. When it came time to shoot Napoleon's dance scene, there was only enough film for about 11 minutes of runtime. Not only that, they were using a film stock that was meant for darkly lit interiors, which is more expensive. So what did they do? They shot what they could for 11 minutes. It was entirely improvised in 3 long takes. 2 songs were by Jamiroquai, and 1 was by Michael Jackson. Ultimately, Jamiroquai's Canned Heat won out. In an interview, John Heder claimed that the music rights to Jamiroquai were almost half the film's budget. All in all, it took 22 days to complete the shoot. Napoleon Dynamite premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 2004, where it received a standing ovation from the crowd. The Hesses received 8 offers from different companies to distribute the film, but they ultimately went with Fox Searchlight Pictures due to their good reputation for marketing indie films at the time. The studio bought the film rights for $4.75 million. Later, the studio would inject an additional $200,000 into the budget to add the post-credit wedding scene. When it came time for the film's theatrical run, Fox Searchlight started off with a few select theaters and then expanded the amount of theaters across the country over time. This slow burn release ended up paying off for Napoleon Dynamite. Audiences felt that they were making a rare discovery that they had to share with their friends, and over time, word of mouth would spread like a wildfire all over the country. It ended up making $46 million at the box office out of a budget of $400,000. The movie was nothing short of a sensation. There were Napoleon Dynamite Halloween costumes, loads of merch, everyone was quoting the movie nonstop. No, really, you couldn't get some people to shut up about it. You hear that, Jesse? You wouldn't stop! And there was a bronze statue of Napoleon erected on the Fox studio lot, which came complete with a tetherball. Of course, all good things come to an end at some point. After the heyday of Napoleon's success came some unfortunate events. There was a short-lived Napoleon Dynamite animated series that came out in 2012, but it was swiftly canceled after 1 season due to middling reviews and a dwindling audience. There were also a couple of legal battles that some of the cast and filmmakers got intertwined with. In 2011, Napoleon Pictures sued Fox Searchlight for $10 million. There was a dispute between Fox's accounting reports and their percentage agreement of home video sales. According to The Hollywood Reporter, when the deal was made, there was a verbal agreement between Napoleon Pictures' lawyer and a Fox executive for 31% of the home video sales. However, when the Fox Searchlight contract was signed, the fine print revealed it was actually only 10%. Ouch. I feel bad for the filmmakers, but this case demonstrates the importance of reading the fine print and getting a competent lawyer.
I could have told you that.
Another legal battle occurred when Efren Ramirez, who plays Pedro, threatened to sue his twin brother, Carlos, for impersonating him. It turns out that Carlos was pretending to be Efren and made public appearances on Efren's behalf without his knowledge. According to an article from TMZ, it all came to a head in 2008 when Efren Ramirez, the real Pedro, sent a cease and desist letter to his brother Carlos Ramirez, warning him to stop making public appearances as Efren. We spoke to Carlos, who tells us he only started impersonating Efren at his brother's request, when Efren was too busy to make the appearances himself. But Carlos admits he took things too far, saying, "I did attend an event without his knowledge as I was being immature and wanted to get back at him for a personal matter which involved the girl I was dating at the time." Carlos says the rift between the two got so bad that Efren's lawyer fired off a letter instructing Carlos to stop interfering with Efren's personal and professional life, or else Efren would sue his brother for more than $10 million. Carlos says he got the message loud and clear and started focusing on his own acting career. So wait a second, let me get this straight. Both stars of Napoleon Dynamite had twin brothers? Crazy stuff, crazy stuff. Look, you get it. It's an iconic movie. The entire team behind this film deserves immense credit. They made all of their wildest dreams come true. I hope this story encourages anyone who has a passion project inside of them that's burning to get out. And when destiny asks you, what are you going to do today? I hope you answer back with,
whatever I feel like, gosh!